Your four favorites are The Lighthouse, Planet of the Apes, Hundreds of Beavers, and The Princess Bride. Swiss Army Man, like The Lighthouse, depicts two men in an isolated environment and explores loneliness, male companionship, madness, and farts. Like Planet of the Apes, it's about human nature and plays with our perception of reality. Like Hundreds of Beavers, it's got physical comedy and absurd humor. And like The Princess Bride, it's a fantasy adventure comedy that's also surprisingly earnest in its portrayal of love and friendship. Pan's Labyrinth explores themes of oppression and resistance like Planet of the Apes. It has a dark, gothic horror atmosphere like The Lighthouse, but it also has a whimsical, imaginative, surreal vibe like Hundreds of Beavers, and it was influenced by fairy tales like The Princess Bride. Time Bandits, like The Lighthouse, was inspired by classical mythology. Like Planet of the Apes, it plays with the concept of time. Like Hundreds of Beavers, it has a chaotic, silly sense of humor. And like The Princess Bride, it feels like a fairy tale that can appeal to both kids and adults. The Fall is structured as a story within a story like The Princess Bride that similarly feels like an imaginative fairy tale adventure. Like The Lighthouse, it involves two main characters bonding in a somewhat isolated environment. Like Planet of the Apes, it touches on the concept of human evolution because Charles Darwin is a character in this movie. And I know monkeys aren't the same as apes, but there's a monkey in this movie. And like Hundreds of Beavers, it has some scenes that are reminiscent of silent films. Fantastic Planet, like Planet of the Apes, is a sci-fi film that tells a story about humans living on a planet that's dominated by another species. It's surreal and unsettling, kind of like The Lighthouse, and it relies heavily on visual storytelling like Hundreds of Beavers. Holy Motors is surreal like The Lighthouse, a fantasy like The Princess Bride, and kind of chaotic and bizarre like Hundreds of Beavers. And it has chimpanzees like Planet of the Apes. Being John Malkovich is a surreal, dark film about identity like The Lighthouse. Like Planet of the Apes, it's a critique of human nature, and this movie has a chimpanzee in it. It's got absurd humor like Hundreds of Beavers, and it's a self-reflexive fantasy like The Princess Bride. Delicatessen depicts a descent into madness with some dark humor and elements of horror like The Lighthouse. It's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi film like Planet of the Apes. It's a comedy about survival like Hundreds of Beavers. And like The Princess Bride, it's also whimsical with some offbeat characters. The combination of Planet of the Apes and Hundreds of Beavers makes me think maybe you enjoy movies where animals take over or have some sort of uprising. And if that's the case, then you might enjoy White God or The Birds. Groundhog Day also technically involves an animal like Planet of the Apes and Hundreds of Beavers, but it's also a comedy where the protagonist has to keep repeating certain tasks and learning from his mistakes like Hundreds of Beavers, and it plays with the concept of time like Planet of the Apes. It also blends elements of fantasy, comedy, and romance like The Princess Bride. If you enjoy the humor of Hundreds of Beavers and the dystopian social critique of Planet of the Apes, then I think you'd like Idiocracy. Galaxy Quest is a sci-fi film like Planet of the Apes, a comedy like Hundreds of Beavers, and self-reflexive or metafictional like The Princess Bride. Starship Troopers is a sci-fi dystopian film like Planet of the Apes and explores similar themes and has a similar sense of humor to some of your favorites. If you like The Lighthouse for its aesthetic and gothic horror vibe, then I think you should check out Hour of the Wolf. But if you like The Lighthouse for that claustrophobic feeling of an isolated descent into madness, then I think you should check out The Shining, The Cremator, and The Others. Since Hundreds of Beavers was clearly inspired by a lot of slapstick silent films, I want to recommend The Circus. And again, I know they're not apes, but this one has monkeys. This one doesn't fit the vibe of your favorites, but you picked the Good Will Hunting poster for Hundreds of Beavers, and you didn't have Good Will Hunting marked as watched. I wasn't sure if that was a mistake, or maybe you just picked that poster because you thought it was funny that the beaver is sitting next to Matt Damon. And if that's the case, then I want to recommend Team America World Police.